Hello, Junior 6. Today we are going to discuss and explain Unit 1, Concept 1. First, let me tell you what we have taken before, that we have something called living organisms and non-living organisms. Living organisms is the organisms that can breathe, that can grow, that can survive, which is like human, animals, and plants. But the non-living organisms cannot do the things. The living organisms must contain cells. And this is our lesson today. What's meant by cells? Cells, it's like the bricks. As we all know that the walls consist of blocks, or maybe we can say bricks. Also, the body of living organisms consists of small particles, or we can say like a tiny particles, which is called cells. So the cells is like the bricks, as it's the building unit of the living organism's body. Cells are found only in living organisms' body, but we cannot find it at non-living things. It's only in the living. They are tiny particles that we cannot see it with our naked eyes, but it needs a tool to be seen with. So we use a tool called a microscope. Microscope is a tool that is used to see tiny particles like the cell that we cannot see it with our naked eye. Both of animal and plant cell contains cells because they are both considered as living organisms. As you can see in the picture, this one with the purple, this is an animal cell. And the one with the green color, this is the plant cell. So what's meant by a cell? Let's make a definition. Cell is the main building unit. So it's the smallest building unit, or it's the main building unit of the living organism's body that can carries all its vital activities. At that part, this is the beginning of the vital activities. This is the part that's responsible for carrying these vital activities. So what's the vital activities, teacher? We can say the vital activities is like respiration. It's like the feeding. It's like running. This is our vital or life activities. Who's responsible for these activities or carrying out this activity? This is the cell. The cell is main building unit and that carries all the vital activities. Let's discuss the size of the cell. We can say that the cells, most of them, is very tiny. Very, very small particles. We cannot see it with our naked eyes. Why? Because its size ranges from 0.1 to 0.005 millimeters. Millimeters is a very small unit for the length. The size of the cell ranges between 0.1 to 0.005 millimeters long. So we need a microscope to see it. Just like bacteria. It's a very, very small cell. We cannot see the bacteria with our naked eyes. We need a microscope to see this bacteria. But there are some other cells that we can see it with our naked eye, like the egg. Unfertilized bird egg, we can see it with our naked eyes, like as shown in the picture. Bacteria is a type of living organisms, which is its body contain only one cell. So the body of bacteria is about one cell, not a lot of cells like us as a human, but its body is only one cell, and its size about 0.05 millimeters. And the growth of human body is resulted by increasing the number of the body cells and not the increasing in their size. So when you're a baby and now you are now the human as an adult, this transformation is resulted from increasing in the number of the cells, but not increasing in the size. So it's about the number, it's about the division and the reproduction of the cells. So the baby looks shorter than the adult, as the baby has a less number of cells than the adult. The adult has more than 40 trillion cells, and we will discuss this later on. If we're gonna compare between plant cell and animal cell, we can say, or we can study the components of the cell. Here is the components of the animal cell and the plant cell. The right part is for the animal cell, and the left part is for the plant cell. The right part and the left part, they have things in common. The living organisms, animal and human and plants. Animal and human is considered as we can say like it's an animal cell. The animal and the plant cell have things in common. Also, they have things that differs from the other part. But let's study what's the things that is common. We have first the cell membrane. We have both nucleus, both have cytoplasm, both have mitochondria and other organelles. Animal cell doesn't contain cell wall. The cell wall is only found in the plant cell and not found in an animal cell. So, teacher, if I give you a sample and I told you, tell me, teacher, is it an animal cell or is it a plant cell? I will take your sample and I will put it under my microscope. So if I see that there is a cell wall, so that's considered to be a plant cell. But if I see that this contains cell membrane only, so that means it's an animal cell. The cell of one living organisms are not similar or are not identical. So we can see that at the same body of a living organism, different kinds or different shapes or different structure of a cell. It's not same for all of the living organisms. Also, the cells of animal, we said before that it's different from the cell of plant. As you can see here in the picture, this is a bone cell. At the same time or at the same body, we can see that the nervous cell, it looks like that picture which is in the middle. At the right picture, that's the muscle cell. They are all cells, but they have different structure. Materials which the cell needs. The cell needs some materials in order to make its vital activities, like oxygen and nutrients to get the energy. Nutrients, you can find it from the food or from photosynthesis process. And also the water to stay alive. Water enters and leaves the cell through the cell membrane. As we have said, the cell membrane is common in both animal cell and in plant cell. Water enters and leaves the cell through the cell membrane. That keeps the water balance in the cell. Keep it in balance. Not excess water and not sufficient or insufficient water in the cell. So what controls this? This is the cell membrane. First, let's discuss the history of the cell. In the 17th century, in 1665, Robert Hooke used the microscope for the first time to see the tiny particles, which he named it that's the cell. So the word the cell is been invented by Robert Hooke. He used the microscope to see some samples of the plant that we cannot see it with our naked eye. Later on, the scientists developed a modern microscope that helped them to discover first, most of the cell contains the components of the cell which contains nucleus. So the cell contains nucleus. That's the thing that they discovered when they examined the cell under a modern microscope. Second, they found that the different parts of the cell got its own function. Every part in the cell gets its own function. Third, the cell is the building unit of the living organisms, and there is nothing smaller than the cell. Cell is the main building, and it's the smallest building. Fourth, that some simple body of the living organisms contain only one cell, like bacteria. Its body is only one cell. Finally, the living organisms, which have complex systems, contains many different cells. That is being explored and discussed by the effect of the microscope. And here is the picture of the microscope. It contains, or its structure, first we have the eyepiece, and we have after that the tube. Eyepiece, it's where you put our eyes to see the image. Tube is the where we can see the image, or the image can transform it to so us can see this. Coarse focus and fine focus are two focus powers. Okay, we can rotate them to see a clear image at the microscope. We have objective lens, as you can see in the picture. It's not only one lens, it's more than one lens. So it's called objective lenses. We have the stage that we can put the sample on it. We have arm, we have a stage clip, mirror, and the base. What's the objective lenses? Objective lenses have different focusing power to form different degrees of magnified images in order to allow us to see the components of the cell. So we use the objective lenses to see the components of the cell, and the power of the objective lens is not constant. It's a different types of power, different types of focusing power. We have high power objective lens and we have low power objective lens. As you can see in the picture, the right picture, here we have a high power objective lens that looks in a bigger size because we use high power objective lens, high focusing power for objective lens. We can see the cells, but it's in a bigger size, so we can see the components also of the cell. But if I use a low power objective lens, I will see the cells like the other picture in a small size. Living organisms divided into unicellular and multicellular. The word uni comes from the word unit, which means that it's a unit one. Unicellular, it's a living organism, but it consists of only one cell, like bacteria. And the multicellular consists of many cells, like human, like animals, and so on. Structure of multicellular organisms. So we will say that we have a structure for the body of the living organisms. First, similar cells together can form tissues. Similar tissues together can form organs. Organs together will form systems, and more than one system, and a lot of systems will form the whole body. First, as you can see here in the picture, first this is the muscle cell, and we also have a bone cell. But if we put some similar cells together, like muscles cells together, we can see that the muscle tissue down there, the picture down there. And also for the bones, here is a picture of a bone cell, but a group of similar bone cells together makes the bone tissue. And group of bone tissue or a group of muscle tissue will make the organ, like the stomach. Stomach tissues makes stomach organ. Stomach and large intestine and esophagus and so on will make the digestive system. Okay, so a group of organs will form the system. Like also the heart, lungs, and so on makes the respiratory system. Fifth, the whole body. The whole body of the human consists of 40 trillion cells. Cell parts. Let's study the structure of the cell. First, we can say that we have four main structures: the cell membrane, the nucleus, cytoplasm, and organelles. First, we start with the cell membrane. What's the cell membrane? It's membrane that surrounds the cell from outside it. And what about the nucleus? It's often located in the center of the cell, but pay attention that the cell, not all the cells of the animal contains a nucleus. Not all of it, most of it, but not all of it. And we also have something called cytoplasm. Cytoplasm, it's a gelatinous liquid found in the cell, and we are going to study each one of them. Organelles. Organelles, it's a tiny structure inside the cell, and each type has a special function, like mitochondria, like endoplasmic reticulum, like Golgi apparatus, and so on. But the thing that makes the plant cell different from the animal cell, first thing, we have the cell wall. Cell wall, we found it only on the plant cell. The cell wall, which surrounds the cell, the plant cell, is made up of special structure called cellulose. So cellulose is the structure that is built the cell wall, which is found in plant cell. Also, we have a green part which is called chloroplast. It's a special organelles in the plant which is responsible for the food, or responsible for making, or the ability to make the photosynthesis process. If we compare the nucleus and the cytoplasm, here we are going to study the function of each particle or component in the cell. First, the nucleus. Whenever you see the nucleus, you will know that the nucleus can control the cell activity from cell division or from the formation of protein. So when making cell division, that needs a nucleus. Formation of protein needs a nucleus. What about the cytoplasm? As we said, it's a gelatinous structure which all the cell parts floats on it. What about the cell membrane? First, its function is to protect the cell. Second, it has a feature called selective permeability. What's the selective permeability? It allows the substance to enter or leave the cell according to the cell needs, but the feature known as selective permeability. When I select some students to answer me during the lesson, that's Miss Hadil now is making a selection, or she's selecting some students. Just like the cell membrane, it got selective permeability, allows some substance to enter the cell and prevent others according to the cell needs. So that is the selective permeability. That's the feature. We can see it at the cell membrane. Next, we have cell organelles like mitochondria, and it's known as the powerhouse of the cell. Why? Because it's a tiny particle that is provide the energy for the cell by converting the sugar into an energy through a process called cellular respiration. So it's converting sugar into energy by cellular respiration. The cellular respiration process, it's a process takes place in mitochondria where the oxygen obtain the chemical energy inside the food or from the food. Also, we have an organelle called Golgi apparatus, which helps to pack and transport the materials between the cells and out of the cell. Endoplasmic reticulum, it's responsible for transporting or collecting the protein. Can you see this orange parts at the blue one? This is the protein. Collects and transports the proteins inside the cell, and also used for building and repairing the cell. And that's it for today. See you next time.